welcome back to my channel. So this makeup took so long, so I will give you a second to appreciate it. Did I need to take like 2 hours to get ready for such a short video? No, but also I'm doing something after this, so it's fine. Anyways, hello. This is going to be quite the contrast to my last few videos since they've all been longer and more commentary focused, but today I just want to give a plain old movie review. And as you saw by the title of the video, we are going to be reviewing Infinity Pool. Well, I'm going to be reviewing Infinity Pool. You're going to be watching me review Infinity Pool. Although if you have a review or, a thought about the movie that I don't mention, or one that I do, I don't care. If you've seen it and you have thoughts about it, totally feel free to let me know in the comments. Also, spoiler warnings, you have been warned. Let's get into it. Infinity Pool is the recent horror movie by Brandon Cronenberg, who, if you don't know, is the son of fellow filmmaker David Cronenberg, who kind of pioneered and popularized the body horror genre. And if you don't know what body horror is, good. Infinity Pool follows a couple, James and Em, played by Alexander Skarsgård and Cleopatra Coleman, respectively, who are taking a stay at a luxurious resort on a fictional foreign island in hopes that James will find some inspiration for his next book, as he is an unsuccessful but aspiring author who published one book 6 years ago with not good reception. So while at the resort, James meets Gabby, played by Mia Goth, who introduces James and Em to her husband Alban, played by Jalil Lespert. And the two couples go against the rules and leave the resort for a joyride and a day at the lake. But on the drive back, James hits and kills one of the island natives, but is convinced by Gabby to just leave it and go back to the resort. However, they were caught because the car that they used to take out to the lake was an employee's car that they bribed to let them take his car and leave the resort. And they didn't give the car back because it was, window smashed and had blood on it. So they are taken to jail, where we learned that this country has a zero tolerance policy for crime in any way, and the punishment is always execution. However, those who have committed a crime are given the choice, if rich enough, to pay for a double, which will look exactly like you and it will have some of your memories. And this double will basically take your place and be executed in your place. So since James is the one that was driving the car, he is the only one that technically committed a crime, so he chooses to pay for a double, and part of the deal when you get a double is that you have to watch it be executed. But when Em and James are watching his double get brutally stabbed to death as his execution, it awakens something in James because he kind of liked watching it happen. And this leads into a messy, trippy downward spiral as he is rallied into Gabby and Alban's group of friends who also like watching their doubles die, so they intentionally go commit crimes around the island just to be caught and have doubles made for their entertainment. The doubles and hallucinogen-induced visuals start to blur the lines between what's real and what's not, who's a double and who isn't, and what this friend group's real intentions are, as everything climaxes with James killing his own double by hand, which essentially initiates him into Gabby and Alban's clique. And it ends with the resort closing for the rainy season, but James chooses to stay, and the final shot is of him laying in a chair by the resort's infinity pool. That's the basic rundown. So now let's get into the actual review. I was actually really, why isn't my thumb up? I was actually really not looking forward to this movie because while I am a really big horror fan, I really don't like body horror, which is what both Cronenbergs really excel in. They love to do grotesque manipulations to the human form. And if that's not your thing, then I think that actually you would be able to stomach this movie. There is gore, but the really extreme gore is more implied off screen or shot close enough to where you don't really get the full extent of it. There's more nudity than there is gore, and there is some body manipulation within the nudity, but that part of it is masked with hallucinogen-induced visuals. So there's a lot of different colors and overlapping shots at varying opacities that make it more stomachable, at least in my opinion, as someone that again is really not into gore and that kind of thing. An important note is that it's more stomachable in terms of the gore and body mods, but there are a few flashing scenes. I think there were 2 pretty intense ones. There are quick cuts and bright flashing colors, so if that's not something you can view, please keep that in mind. Honestly, I'm not sensitive to that stuff and it gave me a headache, so I'd imagine it's not a great movie for those that are sensitive to it. And if I'm remembering correctly, the movie does have a flash warning at the beginning, and my theater also had a sign outside of the theater door with a flash warning, but I don't know if that's a per theater thing. I would assume and hope it is, but just in case it's not, there you go. But moving on from that, The acting in this movie is really fucking good, particularly Mia Goth and Alex Skarsgård, as they are really the main characters. From what I've seen Mia in so far, which I think is just Pearl and X, I will be bold enough to say that this is actually her best performance. I'm sorry to the Pearl stans, that's also like a really good performance, but there's something just about her in Infinity Pool that is so her. She performs an unhinged character so effortlessly that it kind of just feels like Cronenberg told her that she could do whatever she wanted, and Mia just acted like herself. I think there's also a good amount of depth and range to her performance, as she's able to be both controlled, calm, and seductive, and then, you know, a little bit ditzy and kind of awkward, and then controlling and disturbing, or I guess disturbed. Honestly, both. Disturbed and disturbing. I also think that Mia's performance is complemented really well by Alexander Skarsgård, without either of them lacking in talent. He was obviously more reserved because that's just what the performance called for, but I don't think that he underperformed at all. I think the more reserved characterization is what was needed to make that darkness in him more impactful when it was shown, and piggybacking off of that, when it was shown, it didn't look forced beyond what was necessary for the character, if that makes sense. On a separate note, I think that the writing of this movie is also really solid. This movie was intentionally unpredictable in a way that does confuse you, but the confusion is, at least for me, entertaining rather than frustrating. But what I think is really great about this movie is the conversation that it instigates, since it's very obviously not a clear-cut, here's a main character, and he goes through this to teach you this. Yes, we do have a main character go through a journey. The meaning of that journey isn't explicit, which I like, because while the movie itself is supposed to and does have its own point, it also creates commentary about other points that each viewer can find within the movie. Like for me, when I was watching and trying to decipher what the actual message was, my thoughts were that it was kind of a commentary on self-destruction and transformation, and almost the idea of good and evil, how you can fight those parts of yourself but still be bound to them in a way, you know? And some other people I've seen comment on Infinity Pool have had similar takeaways about it being a study on human goodness, what acts a person will commit when they know they won't have repercussions for them, and the damage that that can do. I really like the thoughts that some people have had about it being commentary on colonization, and how these rich, non-native people will come to a place and treat it like their playground, knowing that they won't have repercussions. And of course, there is the actual intentional point of the film, which is a satirical commentary on the wealthy, and more specifically, a commentary on privilege and being abused by it. I feel like recently more and more pieces of media are taking a more artistic approach to criticisms of the wealthy. We've had Glass Onion, The White Lotus, The Menu, and now Infinity Pool, all just in the past few months, aside from White Lotus. And while I do see and appreciate this commentary in Infinity Pool, I actually see and agree with people's critiques of it. This writer slash film analyst that I follow on Twitter named Meech, medium-sized Meech is his @ actually had a really good point about this kind of media and how it isn't really as thought-provoking as it claims to be, especially in Infinity Pool. Reading a section of his thoughts on Infinity Pool, quote, "In recent media, there is an uptick in the portrayal of debaucherous, wealthy white people at luxury resorts, exploiting the locals of color around them without actually examining this behavior. It's like speaking loudly but having nothing to say." And I completely agree with that, and I actually think that this is the biggest flaw of Infinity Pool, because it does detail wealthy white people taking out their depravity on the locals around them, and one less wealthy white guy being James, and it shows you this obviously in a negative light, but I don't think it says that much about it more than the abuse of privilege is bad and damaging, which I would argue is a surface level observation. I will say though, I'm not sure what the appropriate response is or how to improve on this seemingly shallow commentary without it changing the entire point of the movie. What the fuck is wrong with my throat? So if you've seen it and you have an idea, definitely let me know for sure. But overall, Infinity Pool is a tense, trippy, gory journey that has you questioning what's really happening and who's even real, and it makes you think about lack of consequence and the human psyche, and I'd say I think it's like a 7 out of 10. I would rewatch it. Honestly, I think the actual filmmaking aspects, you know, being the filming and editing, are better than the writing, personal opinion. But yeah, I would watch it again, and I would recommend people watch it at least once just to like be witness to it. But yeah, that was my quick little review of Infinity Pool. I told you this was short and I didn't fucking lie. Give me a like for being a truth teller, okay? I really have to go. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked the video, like the video. If you liked the video, comment on the video. And if you liked the video, subscribe to the video maker and I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye.